Alright, well in this video I'm going to show you how to find a correlation coefficient for a set of data. So to find a correlation coefficient, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a spreadsheet. So if you click on your home button is what I call it, or your on button where it comes to this main screen, you're going to go to this middle icon that looks like a spreadsheet. Now for a lot of these different problems you're going to want to, before you do anything, you're going to want to label your column. So I'm going to do that. So let's just say we have a set of data. We'll say that we have a set of data with X values and Y values. And to make it simple, we'll just do 5 numbers. You can see all the numbers here on the screen. So let's say if we have -5, -4, -2, -1, and +3 as our 5 values for X. And let's say our values for Y are 5, 3, 2, -1, and -5. Now one thing to make sure of is after you type in this last number, if we just left my cursor sitting in there, it's going to throw my answers off. It'll give us what we call a mismatch error because our calculator is not going to recognize this last digit here. It's going to say that there's a value for X, which is 3, but they're not going to see that there's actual number plugged in here yet for the Y value. And so you want to make sure after typing this last number that you hit enter or move out of that last cell. Alright. So what we're going to do next is we are going to go to the menu button over here, not the home button, the menu button. We're going to do menu, and next we're going to choose statistics, and then we're going to choose stat calculations, and then we're going to choose 2 variable statistics because we have 2 variables, we have 2 columns of data. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. So it says, what do you want your So it didn't matter if we had called the first X, the first list, if we had called it some other name, it's not going to change here. So it's always going to say what do you want as your X list for your independent variable, and what do you want to have as your Y list for your dependent variable. So right now, since I have my cursor in column B, it's defaulting to say, oh, do you want your X list to be in column B? We don't want that. Okay, so if you hit the, over here, if on your touchpad, if you hit the right arrow twice, it'll bring up this menu. And so we want to make sure that we have our, what we labeled our first column, we want to make sure that that's selected as your X list. Then you could tab, go down to the next cell, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to hit the arrow, looks like just once this time. We're going to arrow down and select the Y column, what we typed in for the second column there for our Y list. Everything else is going to stay the same. Okay, we're not going to do anything else. You can just hit enter, and bam, we got a whole lot of information here. So if I scroll up all the way to the top, we could find some different values that we might be interested in finding. But what we want specifically is we want to know what is the correlation coefficient. So if I scroll down here, here we go. Remember, the correlation coefficient is identified as being our R value. So our R value is about -0.98. So that tells us it's a strong negative correlation there between those 2 sets of variables. So that's how you can easily find a correlation coefficient using your TI-Nspire.